afternoon, good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the podcast with Apna Ghar. Kavita, thank you so much for being with us today. We have been associated with Apna Ghar, at least me personally, for a while now. Like I mentioned to you when we were speaking earlier, I did the 40-hour conversation or 40-hour training workshop with Apna Ghar to be able to volunteer for folks you service for domestic violence, and we did a fundraising activity with Apna Ghar last year in October, which went really well. In fact, I think for the first time, we were able to match the funds that we raised as part of Apna Ghar as well. So, thank you so much for being part of the entire Citizens of the World initiative that we run globally for teleperformance. We are celebrating the May Focus Month, which is the AAPI Heritage Month. And we are really looking forward to having this conversation with you and learning a little bit about you and Apnaghar overall. For everyone watching, if you don't know what Apnaghar means, it means our home. And there's a lot that Kavita, Oneza, and the entire Apnaghar team does in Chicago for domestic violence, especially gender based domestic violence. And Kavita, we would love to have you introduce yourself, and then Amy and I will take a couple of minutes to introduce us. So, if you could introduce yourself, that would be awesome.
Thanks, Ruchi and Amy. My name is Kavita D'Souza, and I am the programs manager at Apna Ghar. I've been with the agency for about 4 years now. Um, my background is in social work, so I was working in India before I moved here.
Well, I wanted to officially introduce myself to you. I know we worked together in a short time. My name is Amy Biera, and I am the Employee and Labor Relations Manager for Teleperformance. And I am on the board at Asian at TP, and I bring the community aspect to the board, and I also assist with community events. So I am so happy to have you with us today, and so you can educate us on what Apnagar is out there doing.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, Amy. I'm Ruchi Gupta. I think a lot of you know me already. I've been in a few podcasts. I'm chairing the Asian at TP this year. Brenda Lee led the fort last year, and it's just amazing to have Apna Ghar with us. And with no further ado, I would love to understand, Kavita, from you. Since you've been part of Apna Ghar and the work that you've done in India as well, would love to hear from you on your journey with Apna Ghar till now and just your sheer learnings with Apna Ghar. And if in the same breath you could tell us a little bit about what the organization does and the impact that you have created for the community, that would be really nice.
Sure. So, Apna Ghar was started by a group of women who were very passionate about working with immigrant survivors, and this was in the 1970s. It was at that point a volunteer-run crisis line that they operated, and from there, in the 1990s, it incorporated into a full service, social service, and advocacy agency. Um, so we've been around for 30 plus years. Apna Ghar, as Ruchi mentioned, is a Hindi Urdu term which means our home. Um, Over the years, we have as I said earlier, it started off as a crisis line service connecting survivors of domestic violence, immigrants at that point who did not know the lay of the land, the laws. Some of them who were also not English language proficient, didn't know their rights, etc., were calling the line asking for help, and the crisis line was connecting them to resources that could help them in their situation. So we've grown since then. Today we provide a number of services, which includes an emergency shelter, um, legal advocacy, counseling advocacy, medical advocacy, housing, supervised visitation, safe exchange program, and of course, our outreach and training. Now, I must say that, you know, over the 30 years, we've had clients from more than 50 different countries, including the US. And in 2021, we have served about 500 plus clients and 200 plus children in our program. We are based in the uptown area, but we also have offices in on the south side. We used to have an office in Skokie. We're based out of Swedish Hospital. So we, as you see, we cover as much of Chicago as we can, making it easier for survivors to access us and our services if we're in these different locations. So a little about myself. I came to the US about 6 years ago. And initially, when I heard about Apna Ghar, I thought to myself, well, I'm sure it's going to be the same experience. I worked in India for more than 15 years by then, and I was looking for something different. But I was introduced to the outreach manager here, and through her, got to know a little more about the agency and the program. But after joining Apna Ghar, I realized there was so much more that I had to learn, right? It's a totally new set of experiences for immigrants and refugees in this country. And therefore, the work that you do and the support that you give and how you navigate that with survivors is very different. So it's been an incredibly great journey for myself in learning so much more and growing with the agency.
Kavita, thank you so much for that. And I think as part of your conversation, you covered some aspects of the resources that you provide to folks who reach out to Apna Ghar. Would love to understand, I wanted to play a video that I saw on the webpage, Nishat's video. And I will have all of you actually view the impact that Apna Ghar makes on people's lives. But just before we do that, could you delve a little deeper into the resources that you provide? I know you have a housing for, uh, you know, anybody who goes through domestic violence, and that is so important because it's almost a life and death, right? A situation where everybody deals with that, unfortunately. And I know you shared the numbers for 2021, which was 500 plus victims that you actually supported and their children, which was 200 plus, which is so remarkable. And that was in 2021. I'm sure it would have gone up, which is unfortunate again, but at least the reach that you've provided overall in the Chicago area speaks volumes of the work that you do. So, would love
Yeah, so, in reply to your statement about the numbers going up, we saw a surge in calls being made to Apna Ghar from survivors of or people in domestic violence relationship or situations. And, we were receiving calls even from people who perhaps were not experiencing that before the pandemic hit. Um, Apna Ghar, what we want to do is provide the tools to survivors for them to get back on track to build their lives and move forward. And we know that many times survivors or people who find themselves in active domestic violence situations fear leaving because they may not have a safe place to go to. They do not know what is in store for them. And therefore, providing a shelter which is safe is very important to survivors, knowing that they're going to have that support. They have financial worry about the finances, they worry about shelter, and our work is to be able to support them and give them those resources, right? So, our shelter, again, as we said, is an emergency shelter, so it's a short term. But in that time with us, clients want to address their immediate needs. And many times that could be legal needs, like getting an order of protection, um, And so we do have a legal advocacy team here, and they help clients address and get their order of protection. They help them find lawyers, pro bono, low bono attorneys from legal aid agencies that we work with and help clients access their services. So it could be anything from a order of protection to a divorce case or child support, immigration needs. We do know that many a times immigrants and refugee survivors find themselves in situations where, um, you know, their spouse may have applied for their own, or spouse or partner would have applied for their own green cards but left them out of it, or let their visas lapse, you know, in situations like that. So usually we do find that sometimes that's the most pressing need. The other thing is counseling services. Survivors need that support. They need someone to talk to. They need to, you know, work through their trauma. And so for us, we do have a counseling team, but our counseling team also helps connect survivors to long-term uh, therapy and care. Other than this, we provide them with medical advocacy, connecting them with healthcare agencies that will help them with their medical needs. And, many a times we find it could be something like um, they require dentists, they require help with their vision, changing
Mhm.
visions. It could be something like they just, they need a general health check to find out if there's anything else. And these are sometimes services that have been denied to them, right? So this is where they can use the opportunity and our services to help them address their health needs. Um, down, what else? We have something called the Supervised Visitation Safe Exchange Program. That is where court-appointed visits take place at Apna Ghar. Um, we, for parents who have lost custody of their children, this is a safe space where children can meet their parents, uh, build a relationship in a supervised setting. Now, this program was started to serve survivors who had also lost custody of their children. And over the years, we've seen it change and grow. And we now do find that we cater to both parties, right? So, this is where we offer a 1 hour opportunity, 1 hour a week where the children can meet their parent. And yes, we do have housing. Housing is the natural, sometimes the next step from a shelter. There is a huge need for housing today because we know that survivors are also rendered homeless because of abuse. And helping them again, that's one of a great, an important tool in helping them rebuild their lives is providing them housing. Our housing programs are 2 years. That is a platform where they use the opportunity to, you know, con- if they have a job, to continue focusing on that job, building savings, planning what their next steps in 2 years is going to be, how they're going to use the money that they've saved to help them either invest it in another apartment or, you know, um, it could be anything, buying a car, it could, whatever serves their purpose and keeping with their goals and their plans. So the housing program is also a time where they learn to really live by themselves, where they learn to pay bills. They know what kind of bills are generated, build their credit score. Uh, Survivors sometimes have been at the receiving end where there has been financial abuse, and therefore they have been denied access to any finances. Either they've never been allowed to work, or sometimes it could be that they did work, but the money was taken away, right? So they may not have any credit score, and this is a good time to learn how to build. A lot of them also find that they are in debt. So, recuperating or understanding how debt works and what's the best way to go about. rebuilding that. Um, we have also we have the outreach and training team that is involved in training agencies, training communities within the communities, providing information and education on what domestic violence is, what it looks like, what the cycle of abuse is, helping people understand that, what people's rights are, you know, um, LEP individuals, who that is individuals who are not English proficient, accessing language lines. So, how they can demand, especially at government institutions, hospitals, etc., at at the courthouse, at the universities, asking for a language line, so an interpretation service. So that's part of what the outreach and education department does. Um, yeah, I don't think I've left anything else.
Wow, that
Yeah.
kind of astounds me in terms of just the sheer resources you provide to some of these survivors. Again,
Yes.
Kavita, thank you so much for being here because that just opened my eyes in terms of everything that you do for survivors who reach out to Apna Ghar. With that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the video, like I mentioned, for Nishat. And Amy, I'll let you ask any questions post that.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect.
I was born in St. Petersburg, Russia, and unfortunately, most of my memories about Russia really revolve around the violence that I would face there. Every day, I just remember my father beating my mother, abusing her, yelling at her. It did instill in me some, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, like I said, insecurity. Our neighbor, what her name was Elizabeth, and she had like kind of seen what my mother was going through. She didn't know the exact story, but she could tell, that my mother was going through this, and she'd seen me, and she was worried. So she gave my mother the number and the address of Apna and told my mother that it was best that maybe she checked it out. So she did, and I mean that in my mind I remember more than anything. Just like when she decided like I need to go. Apna really was a home to us. It was finally I was able to call a place home where I didn't feel like fear or like really like fear for my safety, my mother's safety of being there. Like finally we were surrounded by people who were all on the same path towards recovery. We all wanted to, become independent, leave, and like not have to deal with this violence that we didn't deserve. It wasn't just a shelter to us. I mean, like I said, it was a home, it was a family. Like my mother was telling me the only reason why she found a job, how she like made a bank account and everything was because of Upnakar. The legal services definitely helped a lot with me. And I don't know if it wasn't for Upnakar, my mother, if it wasn't for Upnakar, I don't know if she would have been able to gain custody of me by herself. I'm a freshman at Georgetown University and here in Washington D.C. And I'm in the School of Foreign Service studying international relations and hopefully in the future. I mean, I don't have a set career goal yet, but I know it'll be in the field of international relations. I will forever be grateful to Abnakar. If without Abnakar, we wouldn't have been where I am. I wouldn't have been here right now. My mother wouldn't have been as comfortable as she is now in Chicago. So.
This video always gives me goosebumps because it really kind of showcases that, once you make an impact, how that resonates and how people can take it forward with what Nishat
Yes.
wants to do in Georgetown. So, with that, Amy,
Yes.
if you had any
Yeah.
questions,
Well, the video said it all. And the only question that I really have is how can we help? How can we help Abnagar?
Well, for those, I mean, you can donate, but we're always looking for we're looking for volunteers, etc. But a good way to help us also spread the word and educate people about domestic violence is to perhaps be educated on, get educated on what domestic violence looks like, what the cycle of violence is. Um, there's always bystander intervention, and we would encourage people to speak up, to know who your in your area, your domestic violence agencies are, to know what people's rights are and get them connected. Um, you know, so I think that would be the best way.
And do you have a national hotline number that you can share?
Sure, we do. We have the National Domestic Violence Hotline number, which is 800 799 7233. And in Illinois, we have the Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 877-863-6338. And at Apna Ghar, we also have a crisis line number, which is 773-334-4663. I can
You.
send that.
yes, please. And Kavita, again, from Amy and my, being here, I think we're indebted to you for sharing all that you do at Apna Ghar. Again,
Thank
like I mentioned, it's very, very close to my heart because, I was mentioning to you on Monday that one of my friends had actually gone through something very similar in India, and it completely wreaks havoc in people's lives. So, again, thank you for being with us.